This is Professor Pelt, and this is Chapter 5, Section 1, Part 2. And I'm going to do some graphing of functions in various different forms. So the first one is in vertex form. We want to write the general form, or the quadratic general form. There are general forms for many functions. We want specifically the quadratic. So f of x equals negative 2x plus 3 squared plus 4 is the vertex form. So as a result, the vertex is negative 3 comma 4, right? So that's pretty handy. So I'm going to go to negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and put the vertex. Okay. So if I rewrite this in general form, order of operations dictates exponents come first. So I'm going to do the exponent. And then after exponents comes multiplication. So we'll do negative 2. So that's what? Negative 2x minus 6 times x plus 3. So we have another multiplication. So if I do that, it gives me negative 2x squared minus 6x minus 6x minus 18, right? Minus 2x squared minus 6x minus 6x, and then minus 18. So we did exponents first, then we multiplied twice. Now we're going to add and subtract. So we'll combine like terms. So there is our general form of the function, right? So that is general form. Or quadratic general form, right? Okay, so what's nice about that is I can factor it in or use the quadratic formula to get to the x-intercept. So first we'll try factoring, right? So 0 equals, we'll take out a negative 2, so I'm left with x squared plus, oops, I lost the x. Shoot, let's fix that. Minus 14. Okay, so we took out a negative 2, so we're left with plus 6x. Take out a negative 2, I'm left with plus 7. Okay, so that is not factorable, because the factors of 1 and 7 are 7, so that's 1 and 7, or they're both negative, which gives me 8 or negative 8. So that's not factorable. So we have to use the quadratic formula, right? So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right? So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 28 over 2. Okay, so essentially, we'll get rid of this extra crap over here we don't need. X equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of. So let's see, that's what, 8 over 2? Right? So essentially, we'll bring up the calculator here real quick. We'll get these parentheses actually. Negative 6 plus the square root of, what was it? 8. And then the whole thing divided by 2. Divided by 2. And we'll copy that, paste that, put a minus there. All right, so we get negative 1.6 and then negative 4.4. All right, so negative 1.6 is about right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4.4 is approximately right there. All right, so my x-intercepts, right, are, what do we have here? Negative 6 plus root 8 over 2. Comma 0, right? And negative 6 minus root 8 over 2 comma 0. And then my y-intercept That's when x is 0, correct? Because essentially y is 0 for an x-intercept and x is 0 for a y-intercept, right? So if I plug in 0 to the equation, I get negative 14, right? You can do out the math if you want, but you should be able to do it in your head, because you're going to get y equals negative 2 times 0 to the third minus 12 times 0 minus 14 when you plug it into the equation, right? Okay, so essentially we're down here somewhere off the graph at 0, negative 14. Okay, so the graph goes like this, and the graph goes like this. Oops, that was not very good. I like jumped over a little bit. Shouldn't actually cross the axes till I get down there. All right, not great art skills, but that's fine. All right, so we found the general form. We did that. Determined the vertex. We did that. The axis of symmetry. Okay, well that's just this line right here, which is the x value, right? So that's x equals negative 3. So the axis of symmetry or line of symmetry. Okay, so the next two things that we need we don't have here. I'm going to put them up here since I can't scroll down, is the domain and the range. Well, clearly a parabola goes forever left and forever right. But in this case, it only goes up to 4, right? It only goes up to 4, including, but it goes down forever, right? So that is my domain and range here. All right, pause the video, try the student problem. Okay, let's first rewrite the function. So f of x equals 3 times x minus 2 squared minus 4. So since it's in vertex form, we know the vertex, right? The vertex is 2 comma negative 4. So we'll go to the graph and we'll put on the 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we'll do order of operations, and exponents come first. Then multiply comes next in the order of operations. So 3x minus 6, x minus 2. So we're going to multiply again. So we get 3x. Oh, why did I keep the parentheses? I don't know why I did that, to be honest with you. All right, so if I multiply that out, I get 3x squared minus 6x plus 12 minus 4, right? 3x squared minus 6x plus 12. All right, so we did exponents. We multiplied twice. The last step is to add and subtract. So 3x squared minus 12x plus 8. Okay, so that is my general form right there, right? So first we checked to see if this is actually factorable. So 3 times 8 is 24. So let's check here. So 24 gives me 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, or the double negatives, right? But I think in this case, since it's negative 12, we want the double negative. So the question is, do any of these combinations give me negative 12? Well, no. So that tells me that's not factorable, which is fine. So we do the quadratic formula. So x equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right? So x equals 12 plus or minus the square root of 144. So we have 4 times 3 times 8, but the 4 is the negative, right? So 4 times 3 times 8, let's see, that's 12 times 8, that's what, negative 96 over 6. So 144 minus 96, that's what, 48. So x equals 12 plus or minus the square root of 48 over 6. Right? We can probably simplify that a little bit. So we'll do our x-intercepts over here, x-intercepts. All right, boom, boom. So the 48 can break down, can't it? Right? Because when I think about it, 48 divided by 2 is 24, right? So just real quick on the top here, 48, right, is 2 times 24. 24 is 2 times 12. 12 is 2 times 6, which is 2 times 3, right? Okay, so I have two pairs of 2's I can take out essentially, right? So what this is really is 12 plus or minus 4 root 3 over 6, right? So which cancels a common factor of 2, right? So 2 and two twos come out, make a 4, by the way. Okay, so common factor of 2. Um, so 6 plus 2 root 3 over 3, right? 6 minus 2 root 3 over 3 comma 0. Okay, so we need to get the decimal equivalent of that now to be able to graph it, right? All right, so let's get the calculator going here. So it was what? Ratio was it 12 plus the square root of 48 over 6? I think pre-simplification, right? There we go. Okay, so we're going to take that, copy, paste, double check, 12 plus, yeah. All right, so that just verifies what I've said before. So the decimal equivalent was what we want here. Okay, so 3.1585. So 315 and 85. Okay, that's what those decimal equivalents are. So 123.15, 0.85 are right there. So the last thing we need is a y-intercept, right? So in an x-intercept, y is 0, and in a y-intercept, the x is 0, right? So if I plug in 0, you can do that math pretty easily, right? Y equals 3 times 0 squared minus 12 times 0 plus 8. So you just get an 8, don't you? Right? So that's right there. Oh, did I forget the x again? That's weird. I don't know why I keep doing that. All right, so there's my graph. So if there's one that's there that's 8, right? Then I know I'm going to have one over here that's 8, 2, right? Because this is a line of symmetry right here, which is my x value of x equals 2, right? There's the line of symmetry, right? Or the axis of symmetry, same thing either way. Okay, so there's my graph, which I did not do very well. That's okay. So my domain and range are the last two things that I need. So my domain, well, parabolas go in both directions forever. This one only goes down to -4, right? So I can do to put a bracket here, but it goes up forever. Okay. All right, let's go to the next page. So write the next one in general form. Well, it already is in general form. That's done, right? So we'll do h equals -b over 2a, right? So -6 over 2 times 3, right? Because that's a, that's b, and that's c in the general form, right? So I get 6 over 6 is 1. So the k is f of h, or in this case, f of 1. Okay, so I have 3 times 1 squared minus 6 times 1 plus 1. So I get 3 minus 6 plus 1. So that's, let's see, -3 plus 1 is -2, right? So the vertex is 1, -2. Okay, so we have 1 and -2. There's my vertex, right? So next things I need are my x-intercepts and my y-intercept, right? Y-intercept's easy. X is 0, right? So if I plug in 0, I get 0 minus 0 plus 1. So I get 1, right? So I know that there is 1 here, and symmetrically there has to be 1 here, because my line of symmetry, or my axis of symmetry right here, is x equals 1, axis of symmetry, right? Okay, which also comes from the vertex. All right, so we need our x-intercepts, which are clearly between 0 and 1 and 1 and 2. So the question is this factorable? Okay, so let's write it down here and see if we can factor it. If not, we do the quadratic formula, 3x squared minus 6x plus 1. All right, well, 3 times 1 gives me 3, right? Which is 1 and 3, or -1, -3. Neither one of those, or neither one of those give me -6. That means a quadratic formula, right? Okay, so x equals -b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x equals positive 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 12 over 6. So x equals 6 plus or minus, so that's 36. There we go. So that's 24 over 6, right? So quickly, 24 is 2 times 12, which is 2 times 6, which is 2 times 3. So a 2 comes out of that, right? So x equals 6 over 6 plus or minus 2 root 6 over 6. So x equals 1 plus or minus root 6 over 3, right? So we have 1 plus root 6 over 3 comma 0, and then 1 minus root 6 over 3 comma 0, right? And you can figure out that's 1 plus or minus a little bit, which is already pretty much what we thought, right? So basically it's going to be in there. You can figure out the decimal equivalent if you want, but we already know it goes like this, right? Nope, I didn't quite do that right. That's all right, my art skills are terrible. Okay, so my domain and range are the last things I have to do. Domain and range. So we know every parabola goes forever left and forever right for the ones that are functions. And I go down to -2, and I go up forever. All right, pause the video, try the student problem for yourself. Okay, so this one is already in general form. Done. Whoa, hold on. Pen didn't turn on. Come on. There we go. It's already in general form. Okay, so f of x equals -2x squared plus 4x minus 1. So we need the vertex. Okay, so h equals -b over 2a. So that's -4 over 2 times -2. So that's -4 over -4, which is essentially 1. Did we get 1 last time too? We might have. Okay, so the k is the f of h, or in this case, f of 1. Okay, so I get -2 times 1 squared plus 4 times 1 minus 1. So that gives me what? -2 plus 4 minus 1. Oh, that's just 1. Okay, so vertex, that's a very easy vertex to do, I guess, is 1, 1. Okay. All right, so 1, 1, 1, 1. There is the vertex. Okay, so we have x-intercepts and we have y-intercepts. Hit the board twice by accident there. Okay, so we know right away that the line of symmetry, or the axis of symmetry, so this is definitely x equals 1, right? The A is negative, so this clearly points down. And the y-intercept has to have a 0 for x, because if you're on the axis, obviously x is 0. So if I plug in a 0, I'm going to get 1, right? Because clearly y equals negative 2 times 0 squared plus 4 times 0 plus, minus 1, right? Oh, minus 1. Sorry, minus 1. I didn't read the c is minus 1. Okay, so negative 1. So symmetrically, it has to have 1 over here, correct? All right, so we have to have 2 points in between. So if I look at this really quick, is this actually factorable? Well, if I try to do this, right, y equals negative 2. So it's basically 2 times negative 1, which is positive 2, right? Which is 1 times 2, or negative 1 times negative 2, which neither one of those give you 4, so it's not factorable. Okay, so we're going to do the quadratic formula. Okay, so x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 8 over negative 4, right? So what I really get here is x equals negative 4 over negative 4 plus or minus. So that's going to be the square root of 8 over negative 4. So what I really get in the end is x equals 1, because negative 4 over negative 4 is that. And then plus or minus, what I really get, well, if I simplify the 8, right, 8 is 2, 2, 2. So I get 2 root 2 over a positive 4. And you're like, well, why is that a positive 4? There's usually a negative 4. We think of it this way. If I have a plus or minus divided by a negative, that just gives me a negative positive, right? Because a positive divided by a negative is a negative, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. But there's no difference between plus minus and minus plus, right? So you can just get rid of the negative on the bottom. Okay, so I get x equals 1 plus or minus root 2 over 2, right? So my intercepts are 1 plus root 2 over 2 and 1 minus root 2 over 2. You can get the decimal equivalents if you want, but it tells me exactly where I thought they were. Okay, so domain and range. So all quadratic functions go forever left and forever right. This one goes up to 1, right? And then down forever. Okay, that is the end of part 2.